Welcome back to the Occult Archives. You know how this works by now. We dig into the forbidden books, the dangerous texts, the ones that supposedly hold secrets too powerful for the uninitiated.
Well, today's text, Annie Besant's The Divine Path, Initiation and the Perfecting of Man, it might not sound dangerous at first glance.
It's no Necronomicon, that's for sure. But trust me, Besant's vision of spiritual evolution, of a structured path to perfection, it's powerful stuff.
Oh, absolutely. She lays out a very specific framework, a step-by-step guide to transcending our limitations and achieving a state of, well, she calls it perfection.
Right off the bat, Besant states that the path is one, universal, stretching from the mundane to the divine. This isn't some New Age invention. She claims this path has existed from time immemorial. It's like a spiritual blueprint for humanity.
And she ties this directly to that classic biblical call to be ye therefore perfect. So she's positioning this path as the fulfillment of that ancient imperative. It's not just about personal growth, it's about aligning with a universal principle.
But she doesn't sugarcoat it. She calls it a short, though difficult way. It's like she's saying, yeah, you can reach the summit, but it's going to be a steep climb.
There's definitely a sense of urgency, of focused effort required. No strolling along a gentle path here. She talks about climbing regardless of cliff and precipice. This is an accelerated path, not a leisurely stroll.
So what's the fuel for this rapid ascent? What's driving this accelerated evolution? Besant points to certain great facts in nature as the underlying principles.
These are the foundational assumptions upon which the entire system rests. Whether you believe in them or not, she argues, these principles are operating, shaping our lives both internally and externally.
Okay, so they're like the cosmic laws governing this whole process. Kind of like, gravity. It doesn't matter if you believe in it, it's going to affect you either way.
Exactly. And the first of these great facts that she emphasizes is reincarnation. Not as a belief, mind you, but as a necessity.
Reincarnation, the idea that we live multiple lives. It's pretty common in Eastern traditions, but Besant presents it as a practical mechanism for spiritual growth.
Right. She basically says that one lifetime simply isn't enough to traverse the vast distance between our current state and this ultimate perfection. And she even talks about spiritual memory, this inherent wisdom carried over from past lives that shapes our current understanding even before our conscious minds can grasp it.
Like a subconscious library of experiences informing our present journey. Fascinating. And what's the next foundational principle she highlights?
The law of causation, or karma. As the saying goes, whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. Our actions, thoughts, even our desires, they all have consequences.
So no escaping the ripple effect of our choices. Everything comes back around eventually.
Precisely. It's a system of perfect accountability. And then the third great fact she lays out is the very existence of the path itself, and importantly, the existence of those who have successfully trodden it.
The trailblazers, the ones who've reached the summit, she uses various terms: guardians of the world, elder brethren, masters. It's like this lineage of enlightened beings who've completed the journey.
And their existence, she argues, proves that it's possible. It offers hope and inspiration to those who are still climbing. They're not just mythical figures, but living examples of what can be achieved.
So where does someone even begin if they feel drawn to this path? What are the first steps Besant recommends?
Well, she emphasizes that the path isn't separate from everyday life. It's not about retreating to a cave or a monastery. Any activity, she says, can become a step on the path.
So it's not so much about what we do, but how we do it.
Exactly. The key difference, she argues, lies in the object and motive behind our actions. Are we acting out of self-interest, pursuing worldly success, or are we motivated by a genuine desire to serve, to contribute to the betterment of the world?
That's a pretty crucial distinction. It shifts the focus from individual gain to a more selfless orientation. She even compares worldly pursuits to toys.
Right. They might offer temporary amusement or distraction, but they lack true substance, true lasting value. Real fulfillment, according to Besant, comes from selfless service, from dedicating ourselves to something larger than our own narrow desires.
And she sees the awakening of social conscience, this awareness of our interconnectedness and responsibility for others, as an early sign of progress on the path.
Absolutely. It's about developing empathy, feeling the suffering of others as our own, and allowing that to motivate us towards action. This isn't about guilt or obligation, but a natural outflowing of compassion.
So it's about action that's rooted in love and a genuine desire to alleviate suffering. She also mentions another interesting signpost: being possessed by an idea.
This isn't about fanaticism or blind zealotry, but rather a deep, unshakable conviction in a true idea, an idea aligned with service and the natural order. She contrasts this with what she calls the butterfly mind, fleeting from one fleeting interest to another.
It's that unwavering focus, that dedication to a cause greater than oneself. She even cites examples like enthusiasts, heroes, martyrs.
These are individuals so driven by a higher purpose that worldly distractions have little power over them. Of course, it's crucial that this dedication be directed towards the good, towards ethical action, but the intensity of that commitment is a key marker.
This naturally leads to the concept of seeking and finding the master. It's like that classic archetype of the spiritual seeker embarking on a quest for guidance.
And Besant acknowledges the diverse ways this seeking can manifest. She outlines three primary motivations: the intellectual pursuit of knowledge, the passionate devotion to an ideal embodied in a person, and the compassionate drive to alleviate suffering.
It's like the seeker of wisdom, the lover of the divine, and the compassionate activist. Each path driven by a deep inner yearning.
Exactly. And she highlights a pivotal turning point in each of these journeys, a moment of profound necessity. It's no longer a casual interest, but an imperative. I must know, I must find, I must act.
That inner call to something more. And she suggests that this yearning often leads to a conscious search, perhaps through studying spiritual teachings, attending lectures, connecting with inspiring individuals, or even hearing an inner voice, as she herself experienced.
This marks the beginning of a deliberate path. Besant often refers to this as the science of union, or yoga, but she cautions against diving into the practical application without proper guidance.
It's like studying chemistry from a textbook versus actually conducting experiments in a lab. You need an experienced guide to navigate the potential dangers and ensure you're applying the knowledge correctly.
Precisely. She warns that applying these powerful mental and spiritual techniques without a proper understanding can lead to imbalances, even psychological distress. She even draws parallels with historical figures, mystics, saints who, despite their spiritual aspirations, lacked a grounded discipline and experienced difficulties as a result.
So the master serves as a kind of mentor, a protector even, ensuring the seeker's safety and guiding them effectively through the process.
That's a good way to put it. The master isn't just a dispenser of wisdom, but a skilled navigator of the inner realms. And yoga, in this context, encompasses both the focused application of mental and spiritual laws and the cultivation of a disciplined lifestyle to prepare the body and mind for these intensified energies.
So it's a holistic system, integrating both inner and outer work. Now, assuming someone feels this call, they're seeking and they're committed to the practice, what are the initial qualifications Besant lays out for this probationary path?
She outlines 4 key qualifications. First is the power to discriminate, the ability to distinguish between the real and the unreal, the permanent and the impermanent in every aspect of life.
So it's about developing discernment, learning to see through illusions and focus on what truly matters.
Exactly. It's about separating the wheat from the chaff, recognizing the essence beneath the surface appearances. Then comes dispassion, or desirelessness.
Not the complete eradication of all desire, I imagine.
No, but a redirection of desire. It's about shifting our focus from the fleeting attractions of the world to the eternal, to that which brings true and lasting fulfillment. It's about aligning our deepest longings with our highest aspirations.
It's about wanting the right things, the things that truly nourish the soul. What's the third qualification?
This one is a collection of 6 mental attributes, which Besant calls the 6 jewels. They include control of the mind, the ability to focus and direct our thoughts with intention, control of action, which naturally flows from mental discipline, ensuring our actions are aligned with our inner state, and tolerance, a broad and encompassing acceptance of others, recognizing the divine spark within each being.
Tolerance is a core spiritual virtue. That's particularly relevant in our increasingly diverse and interconnected world. What are the remaining 3 jewels?
Endurance, the fortitude to persevere through challenges and setbacks on the path, faith, an unwavering trust in the divine, in the guidance of the master, and in the ultimate goodness of life. And balance, or equilibrium, a state of inner peace and stability that remains unshaken by the turbulence of the external world.
It's like a toolkit of inner strengths for navigating the spiritual journey.
Yeah.
And the 4th qualification?
The desire to be free. But Besant clarifies that this isn't about selfish liberation, seeking escape from the world. It's the desire to be free in order to serve, to help others more effectively.
So it's about freedom with a purpose. Liberation not for its own sake, but as a means to a greater end. How does one go about developing these qualities?
The primary method Besant advocates is meditation-focused contemplation, a withdrawing of the senses to connect with our inner self. She recommends starting with short periods, perhaps focusing on a single quality at a time. But crucially, she emphasizes that this inner work needs to be integrated with daily life. Yoga is skill in action, she writes.
So it's about bringing that inner stillness and wisdom into our interactions with the world, applying these principles in our daily lives. Now back to the idea of finding the master. How does that connection actually manifest once the aspirant begins to embody these qualities?
It's not always a straightforward process. Besant suggests that the master, having observed the aspirant's sincere efforts and commitment to service, will, in a sense, find them. This often begins with a period of probation, a kind of testing ground to assess the aspirant's readiness.
This probation sounds like a formal entry into a deeper level of guidance. What does it typically involve?
It often starts with a summons to the master's presence, perhaps in what's known as the astral body, our subtle energy form. This initial contact provides guidance and instruction. Then the aspirant usually returns to their everyday life. This probationary period allows the master to observe how they navigate challenges, how they handle their strengths and weaknesses, and how they work through any remaining negative karma.
It's like a real-world test, a period of observation and refinement under the master's watchful eye. What happens if the aspirant successfully completes this probation?
They'll be summoned again, and if deemed ready, formally accepted as a disciple. At this point, a deeper merging of consciousness begins between the disciple and the master. More specific teachings are given, tailored to the disciple's needs and progress. Besant even mentions texts like "at the feet of the master" as examples of this kind of guidance.
A profound mentorship, moving beyond intellectual understanding to a more direct, heart-to-heart connection. Now, once the disciple is accepted, how do those initial qualifications we discussed, discrimination, dispassion, the 6 jewels, the desire for freedom, actually manifest in their daily practice?
They deepen and become more nuanced. For example, discrimination in practice involves seeing beyond the limitations of religious forms and rituals, recognizing that they're just tools, pointers to a deeper truth. It also means refraining from judging others, refusing to ascribe negative motives to their actions.
It's about seeing the bigger picture, acting with wisdom and understanding. How about dispassion in practice?
This is where the allure of worldly desires truly begins to fade. The yearning for the path becomes so strong that those fleeting attractions lose their grip. Besant also specifically cautions against seeking psychic powers for their own sake. Trust the master's judgment, she advises, regarding when and if such abilities are appropriate for service.
So it's about relinquishing even seemingly spiritual desires if they're rooted in ego or personal gain. And how do the 6 jewels come to life in daily practice?
Control of mind translates into a consistent ability to remain calm and unperturbed by external chaos. It's about consciously cultivating positive thoughts and intentions, even maintaining a cheerful demeanor as an act of service. Control of action becomes simply doing what is right, consistently aligning our deeds with our highest understanding. Tolerance evolves into a deep empathy for others, the ability to see their perspective even when it differs from our own.
It's about understanding that everyone is on their own journey, facing their own challenges.
Exactly. Endurance becomes that unwavering persistence in the face of obstacles. One-pointedness, or balance, translates into a laser-like focus on the divine will, unwavering in our commitment to serving the highest good. And faith matures into an unshakable trust in the teacher, in the path, and in the inherent strength of our own inner self.
These qualities become more than just concepts, they become embodied virtues. And how does the desire for liberation translate into action?
Besant reframes this as union with the Supreme, which, being fundamentally love, expresses itself as love in action. And she identifies 3 key obstacles to this expression. Gossip, which she describes as harmful to all involved, cruelty in all its forms, including thoughtlessness towards animals, and superstition, which represents a clinging to external rituals without true inner understanding. Overcoming these becomes a crucial aspect of practicing love.
It's a powerful call to ethical action, grounded in compassion and wisdom. Now, she then guides us towards the first initiation, which she describes as the birth of the Christ within. This sounds like a significant milestone.
It marks the beginning of the Christ life, a conscious striving to embody those qualities associated with the archetype of the Christ love, compassion, selflessness, sacrifice. Besant draws connections with ancient mysteries found in various cultures, initiatory traditions that revealed profound truths and helped overcome the fear of death.
So it's not just a Christian concept, but a universal principle symbolized by the way of the cross, the triumph of the spirit over the limitations of the material world.
Exactly. She even mentions a great white lodge, a sort of universal spiritual order that transcends religious boundaries, recognizing only the inner qualifications for initiation. And she outlines 5 major initiations on the path, with 4 portals to be passed before reaching the master's initiation.
And the first of these portals marks the birth of the Christ. What does this inner birth signify?
It's like a spiritual rebirth. The new initiate is likened to a little child entering the kingdom of heaven. It's a profound expansion of consciousness, a stepping onto the path with greater awareness and commitment. Besant also mentions the inner renunciation symbolized by the traditional vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience.
Those vows can sound quite intense when taken literally. How does Besant interpret them in this context?
They represent inner shifts, not outer restrictions. Poverty becomes detachment from material possessions. Chastity becomes a dedication of one's energy to the higher self, not just physical celibacy. And obedience becomes aligning one's will with the divine will, surrendering the ego's need to control.
It's about letting go of the lower to make space for the higher. She also mentions descriptions like wanderer in Hinduism and he who has entered the stream in Buddhism.
Both metaphors point to the irreversibility of the journey. The initiate has embarked on a path that will inevitably lead to their ultimate destination. There's a sense of momentum, a clear direction forward.
And the next major stage is the second initiation, often called baptism. What needs to be overcome to reach this point?
Besant identifies 3 key fetters that must be shed: the illusion of separateness, the tendency towards doubt, and reliance on superstition. The initiate needs to cultivate a deep sense of interconnectedness, seeing all beings as part of themselves. They need to develop unwavering trust in the master and the path, and they need to move beyond external rituals, relying solely on the God within.
A shift from isolation to unity, from questioning to faith, from externals to internals. What does the baptism symbolize in this context?
It's represented by the descent of the Spirit of God, a further infusion of divine energy, and the increasing integration of higher consciousness with the physical body. In Hindu teachings, the initiate at this stage is called the builder, constructing their spiritual vehicles for higher work. In Buddhism, they're called he who shall receive birth once more, indicating continued growth and transformation. The focus now shifts towards consciously developing superphysical abilities, powers beyond the 5 sattvas, to serve more effectively in the subtler realms of existence.
Using these expanded capacities to help in new and profound ways. And then we have the third initiation, known as the transfiguration. What's the core essence of this stage?
It's about the refinement and perfection of all the initiate's vehicles, preparing them for even greater service. It's symbolized by the transfiguration, the radiance of the divine shining through, the full recognition of the I as one with God. But Besant warns that this illumination is often followed by a descent into a valley of the shadow of death, a period of intense inner testing.
It's like the light before the inevitable encounter with the darkness, which leads us to the fourth initiation, the passion. This sounds like the most challenging and transformative of the initiations.
It is indeed a profoundly intense stage. 2 more fundamental weaknesses must be overcome: attachment and aversion, the clinging to and pushing away of external things. This prepares the initiate for a period of great trial, symbolized by the going to Jerusalem, betrayal, desertion, loneliness.
The feeling of being abandoned, even by the divine.
Exactly. The initiate goes through inner experiences that mirror the passion narrative. Betrayal, denial, rejection, a symbolic crucifixion being held up for ridicule and scorn. It culminates in the agonizing cry, "My God, why hast thou forsaken me?" which ultimately leads to the profound realization of the God within. And then comes the triumphant declaration, "It is finished," signifying the overcoming of this great trial.
A true victory forged in the fires of suffering. And what state of being does the fourth initiation mark?
The state of the Arhat, the Paramahamsa, the Christ crucified, in the sense of having fully conquered the lower nature. This individual becomes a powerful helper of the world. The loneliness dissolves as the oneness of all life is fully realized. The path, while still demanding, becomes smoother.
And then beyond the fourth initiation, we have the resurrection and essentially the initiation of the master. What transformative shifts occur here?
Besant describes a crucial hidden life between the crucifixion and resurrection. It's a final shedding of all remaining human limitations, the desire for life in any form, any lingering sense of separate selfhood. Complete invulnerability is achieved. The last traces of ignorance and weakness fall away. The master lives and acts with perfect freedom, their motives often beyond ordinary comprehension, working as part of a greater spiritual order. All worlds are open to them. They've died to earth and entered eternity.
A complete transcendence of individual limitations into a state of universal consciousness and selfless service. And then Besant speaks of the Christ triumphant and the work of the hierarchy. What does this higher level of spiritual evolution involve?
The master, having reached the fifth initiation, stands victorious. Yet within this vast liberation, one path leads back to the realm of earth, the path of compassion. Hearing the suffering of humanity, the master chooses to remain connected, bearing the burdens of physical existence to help others.
So even after achieving liberation, they choose to return and serve. That's true selflessness.
These highly evolved beings form the occult hierarchy, the guardians of the world. They constantly pour out blessings, guiding and strengthening humanity. They inspire religious movements, send empowering thoughts to individuals, and take on disciples to continue their work.
A beautiful vision of a benevolent force working behind the scenes to guide and uplift humanity. Finally, Besant discusses the coming of a world teacher. How does this fit into the overall narrative?
She presents it as a natural part of the evolutionary process. Each major world religion, she argues, has been founded by a world teacher, appearing at specific intervals to bring new inspiration and advance civilization.
She links figures like Krishna, Thoth, Zoroaster, Buddha, and Christ to specific advancements in humanity's understanding.
Each teacher builds upon the work of their predecessors, revealing a new facet of truth, pushing humanity forward. And she suggests that the current state of the world, with all its turmoil and challenges, points to the imminent arrival of a new world teacher. She even interprets the emergence of a new subrace in America as a possible physical sign.
What's the reasoning behind this anticipation?
The idea is that great leaps in human evolution are often accompanied by the arrival of a guiding figure who catalyzes that progress. The very fact that so many people are feeling this need for guidance, this yearning for a better world, is seen as a harbinger.
So the longing itself is part of the process, and what role does she envision for this coming teacher?
Not to solve all our problems for us, but to guide us towards finding our own solutions, to point us back to those internal principles of love and cooperation. She envisions a peaceful army of dedicated individuals working with this teacher to build a more just and harmonious world.
An inspiring vision of a future where humanity embraces its higher potential. It's a lot to take in. Besant's framework is incredibly detailed and profound.
It is, but the core message is ultimately quite simple. It's about cultivating those qualities of discrimination, dispassion, and selfless service. It's about aligning ourselves with the divine and dedicating our lives to something larger than ourselves.
As we reflect on all this, it begs the question, what are those signs she mentions, both the personal and the global? Are we seeing them in our own lives and in the world around us?
And perhaps even more importantly, regardless of our beliefs about a formal path or masters, how can we embody those core principles, discrimination, dispassion, selfless service in our own unique ways? What toys are we ready to let go of to embrace a deeper purpose?
Powerful questions indeed. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Annie Besant's The Divine Path. We hope this has sparked some reflection and perhaps even inspired some action.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep striving, and keep serving the light.